We want to bring in travel reporter Peter Greenberg now, who is live for us in Turkey. Peter, welcome. Break this down for us, please. What is going on here? Travelers are scrambling after Spirit Airlines cancels almost half of its flight. American passengers also seeing major delays and changes. This is the third straight day. What's happening?
Well, the airlines would tell you it was weather-related as well, but it really was a perfect storm in which the storm was only part of the problem. It's about staffing again. Of those 270 flights that American canceled yesterday, 120 of them was because they couldn't find the crew. They couldn't find either the pilots or the flight attendants. Now, here's the interesting part of this. Pre-pandemic, airlines always had a problem towards the end of a month in terms of fielding enough crew, simply because of the number of hours flown, time off, etc. This didn't happen at the end of the month. This happened at the beginning of the month, which gives you an idea of how bad the problem really is.
Wow, so travelers have a lot to look forward to, it sounds like. How about just not scheduling flights that are not staffed?
Well, here's what happened. They didn't expect travel to come back so fast in the leisure markets. They took all their planes out of the park position and started scheduling them. Many new routes, and we're talking like 6 or 7 dozen new routes by many of the airlines. Then they couldn't staff them. And yet the planes were full. The problem then is, of course, if your first plane is canceled, the second plane's already full. Now what do you do? And it cascades from there.
And we see the pictures of the results there. Not that this is any excuse, right? But we are seeing a correlation between all these flight delays and unruly passengers. Is there a connection here?
There is, although there's a lot of other problems as well. 3,600 cases of unruly passengers already reported by the FAA. That's a huge increase. We've talked about this before, but in an overwhelming number of those cases, alcohol is also involved. We now know, of course, that American and Southwest no longer serving alcohol, not expected to bring it back until after the mask mandate is ended. Right now, that date is September 14th. We don't know if that's going to hold. The other problem is that the Airline Flight Attendants Union reports, they did a survey, 84% of their flight attendants reported having to deal with unruly passengers, and in 17% of those cases, it was a physical incident. And right now, short of putting a breathalyzer at the jetway, we have another problem with passengers pre-gaming their flights, meaning bringing their own alcohol aboard. American now has changed their in-flight announcements on their pilots. In addition to all the other things the pilots say, they're now saying consumption of personal alcohol violates federal regulations and will be, it's essentially a crime.
Yeah, no one should have to deal with that at work. So are there any tips you have for people who are watching this, who are buying airline tickets right now? Anything they can do to minimize these hassles?
Well, first of all, always take the very first flight that's scheduled of the day. Try to make it a nonstop flight. Second of all, here's the problem. When you go online to make your reservation, the way it's set up is the lowest fare comes up first. That's what gets our attention. Don't just look for the fare. Look for the connect time. So many of us are making connecting flights, and an airline that gives you a legal connect time of 32 minutes, that's not just ludicrous, that's suicidal. Give yourself a 90-minute connect time between connecting flights, no matter how good the weather is, because if you miss that first connection, even though the airline will try to get you on their next available flight, if the planes are full, you won't get out that day. And the third piece of advice is the airlines have algorithms that will automatically rebook you. The problem there is your nonstop may soon become a two-stop, and you may not get there till later that night or the next day. You can't get to a phone because the airline reservation centers are busy. Get to a human being as soon as you can to redo it, because there may be other options. But right now, it's a bad situation because it's cascading, right? The first plane's late, second plane doesn't exist for you.
And then when you try to call, no one answers. Peter Greenberg, thank you very much. It's giving me anxiety just talking about this, having this conversation. We appreciate you joining us from the other side of the world tonight. Thank you.
You got it.